Hi writers, my name is Drae Box. I'm a young adult fantasy author, and in today's webinar we are talking about relaunching a book or a book series, as is my case, and some tips and suggestions that I've got for you from personal experience. Now, in October of 2015, In October of 2015, I released The Royal Gift, the first book in the Common Kingdom series, and then the following year, on the exact same date, I released the second book in the series, Threat. Now, book 1 was well received. It was downloaded 13,465 times in the first year, but read through to the second book wasn't great, and on top of that, I was getting some really good feedback in the reviews, namely that the ending kind of let people down. On top of that, I had been rewriting books 3 and 4, ready to publish them, and this is a series that at the time was going to be a 31 book series, and then it became an 11 book series, and then when I started work on this relaunch stuff, it became a 5 book series, but more on that in a moment. And I was rewriting books 3 and 4, and I noticed something. My writing style and my skill had changed dramatically from the published versions of The Royal Gift and Threat. So my brain's going, uh-oh. And then I made a decision that I should probably relaunch those. But relaunching a book, especially a book series, takes a lot of time, money and effort. And it has been a while. I mean, we're now in 2019 and I'm just getting to the final stages now. So when I made the decision, I knew that it was going to take me a lot of time. It was going to cost me more money because initially I thought I was going to redo the book covers, and I knew that no matter what I decided, I would have to hire the editor at least twice on some of the books and at least once on the newer books. I also had an email list that had attracted the wrong type of readers, and so I knew I kind of needed to maybe restart with that as well. So I decided to go dark. And this is something that coders sometimes do, where they zero in on what they need to get done and they kind of ignore everything else. So I had to stop trying to work on other projects and I had to focus in on just this Common Kingdoms series relaunch and figuring out what exactly am I doing. I also stopped being so active on social media because that was distracting me from being able to do that. And I also had to, look at the 2 books that I had published thinking they were good because I'd had structural reviews by an editor and I'd had line edits by an editor. And the line edits, the actual sentence structure and such wasn't an issue here. The issue was the structure. The structure was not great because the ending was rubbish and there were other bits that needed to be fine-tuned even now, many rewrites later and published. So the first thing I did was I revamped the series outline. So some people call this the series arc. And what this is it's first of all, it's where you decide, okay, how many books do I actually need in this series? Quite often you hear people talking about trilogies and duologies now because they seem to be picking up in popularity because readers can see an ending in sight. And on top of that, you can do, a new series in the same world. So, you still get kind of like that big series, but it's more confined into little sections. And so at the time, it was supposed to be an 11 book series. So I looked it over and I told myself, this could actually be 6 books. And then whilst I was working on the plots for book 5 and, book 6, whilst working on writing book 5, I realised that the 2 books could actually be the same book. So then the series arc got rewritten to be a 5 book series. And this also allowed me to make sure that I had all of my plot hooks finished off. So there were things in book 1 that were mentioned that were never concluded. There were things in book 2 that hinted at things in book 3, 4 and 5. And there was a character that, is kind of important and is to do with another character further along. So once I had done that, I then created a master document, or the master doc as I call it, and it was just a Google sheet. And in there, I put all the questions that I had for myself that I needed to answer, along with some things that I knew I was probably going to have to tackle. I split this master document up into different sections. On top of that, I also read Chris Fox's, and I think this was, I can't remember whereabouts it was during the series relaunch work, because, you know, it has been running for a few years now, but at some point Chris Fox released a book about relaunching your book and breathing life into your backlist, and I read that, and that did help get the mind ticking over with some more things to put into the master document. So my first thing that I wanted to tackle was my whys. Why do I want to relaunch the series, or, you know, books 1 and book 2 and then release 3, 4 and 5? I felt that it shouldn't be about the money, because yes, book sales equals more money to be able to release further books and eventually, you know, quit the day job and write for a living and, you know, do what we love. My whys for relaunching The Royal Gift and Threat and then releasing 3, 4 and 5 in quick succession was because I wanted to be able to tell people that I had given it its best chance of success. I wanted to be able to tell myself that I'd done the best I could, and now I could close that chapter of my life and move on to new and more exciting projects. So the next thing I tackled was defining success and failure. What would I equal to being success, and what would I consider a failure when I relaunched books 1 and 2? It was taking into consideration the impact relaunching books 1 and 2 would actually have on my author career. You know, it has taken me since 2017, we're now in 2019, and I'm at the final stages now. So, you know, it has had quite a knockback on what I had hoped to have been doing by this point as an author. It was also things like, how much should I save on a weekly basis towards the relaunch costs, which, you know, that is important. You don't want to be reworking a series, then not have the means to pay for the editor, you know, once or twice, depending on if you get structural edits as well, and then for any new book covers that you decide to have. Then there was the book cover, you know, issue. Do I want new book covers? Can I get away with having the previous book covers and then maybe tweaking them a little bit? Do I want a new series name? Do I want to retitle books 1 and 2 so people get less confused? But wouldn't that also make them confused? And then there was the prep timeframe section. So this was determining the core components of the relaunch. So what needed to get done. I also needed to define exactly where it stood at that point in time. How long I guessed it might take. What should I track to determine success? So we're still talking about success here and being able to look at the relaunch and be happy about it or learn lessons about it. Then it was what statistics I should ignore for the same reason. Then it was things like, do I want to bundle the books together later on down the line? And then there was the whole bit on building awareness, so marketing, which I'm not going to go into here because that's not really the topic for us today.